We've reached the final piece of this course, example 515, movie ident. An ident is like a production company logo. It's the short clip at the beginning of a movie that identifies the film studio, like Universal and Warner Brothers and so on. We wanted to make something that sounds uplifting, like it's taking us away on a journey. So here's what we came up with. Let's take a listen. This one appears more fully orchestrated, and it may look a little complex at first, but I think we can break it down into 4 basic elements. First, let's look at the melody, which is in the violins. We can start by following the top note of violin 1. And then if we look at both violins, we end up seeing this melody in octaves. A here, and A an octave below. B flat here, and B flat an octave below. Then in measure 4, violin 1 plays A in octaves, so that's easy to spot. And in measure 5, G here and G an octave below. The other notes fill in the harmony, which we'll get to in a minute. But that's the first item to see here. The melody moves up from A to B flat, holds it, and then goes back down to A and G. Next item, let's look at the bass line, which is in contrabass. It arpeggiates downward from B flat to G to E flat, and then the final note is D flat. So actually, our bass line spells out an E flat 7 arpeggio. That's kind of interesting. Let's combine the notes of our bass with the melody. I'll play them now. So that's like a rudimentary outline of our piece. And if we think about how these notes fit together, we have an E flat 7, and that's what we'd call a dominant 7th, and the melody starts on A. Otherwise, it plays chord tones, G and B flat. So that A is kind of like a sharp 11 against the chord. As it turns out, we're in the key of E flat, and this piece uses a hybrid scale, what we call Lydian flat 7, or the Lydian dominant scale. So imagine E flat Lydian, which usually gives us a dreamy sound, and now we flat the 7th. So it has a really curious, kind of interesting sound, at least to my ears. The third item to look at, harmony. So we get harmony from the strings throughout the piece. Let's start there. In measure 1, we have the 5th in the bass, then cello, viola fill in E flat major. Violins give us the A in octaves, and D flat F, the 7th and the 9th. Altogether, it's basically an E flat 7 with a 9th and the 11th. Measures 2 and 3 spell out a solid E flat 9 chord. 3rd in the bass, E flat and cello, then violins and viola give us this B flat minor chord. But in this context, it's basically E flat 9. Then in measure 4, we shift a bit. Violins and cello give us F major, while viola and contrabass give us E flat. So this is basically F major over E flat. Then we do a similar thing in measure 5. Violins and cello now spell out E flat major, and viola contrabass move down to D flat. So now this is E flat major over D flat. So we get this parallel motion in measures 4 and 5. And we just hold that last chord to the end. I would say the harmony here is pretty modal as well. There's a little variety, but there's no traditional chord progression. There's no dominant tonic. We've only looked at the strings, but now that we know what's happening, it's easier to make sense of these brass chords in measures 2 and 3. While the strings hold out B flat minor, horns play E flat major. They're reinforcing the harmony, and when played together, we get a strong sense of the E flat 9.